Hello, everyone, and welcome to Organic Matters, the podcast brought to you by the Irish Organic Association. I'm here with Pat O'Sullivan, the CEO of MasterChefs, which is a gourmet catering company. But we're not doing this in an office like you'd think most CEOs would do it. We're doing it on a farm that you have here, Pat. So tell me about the farm and tell me about the produce that we're looking at. Why a farm?
Welcome, Hannah. We're standing in Ellan farm in Ballinity, County Limerick. Why a farm? Because we needed to do something to address the shortfall of quality food that's available in the marketplace. It was very difficult to find a reliable source, a continued reliable source of a variety of horticultural produce. And I guess it was playing around in my mind for years. I looked at various projects and then COVID happened. And I'm sitting at home and I see online and looking for something to do, as we all were during COVID. And I saw this farm coming up for auction and we bought it. It's approximately 20 acres. It's much more than we needed at the time, but we're growing into it. And that was when it was COVID, 2020, was it? And then we parked it for a while, trying to figure out what we were going to do with all this land. I had to kind of sell the project to my team in MasterChefs, and I'm lucky that I have some people that completely get it and understand where I'm coming from. They come from a farming background like myself. So we set out a plan. We employed some horticultural specialists. Shirley and Anthony are expert at what they do, and we started out year by year. First year, I think we only grew about half an acre. The second year, last year, we increased that significantly, and we increased the variety of what we're growing significantly. And this year, we have huge, massive output. And it's a game changer for us, yeah.
Isn't it amazing, though? Because, you've had a long history in, I guess, the catering industry. You were a head chef, I think, at the age of 24. And you just needed quality produce. And that was kind of the reason for getting into this. And because have you even noticed that it's been harder over the years to get quality produce for your customers?
Just took the words out of my mouth. When I was head chef at 24, it was actually easier to get organic produce than it is in 2025.
That's incredible.
Yeah, which is shocking, really. But there was more. Like, I grew up in an environment where almost everything we ate was organic. It just didn't have the title at the time. But over the years, it's become harder and harder to get quality produce. And like every other caterer and hospitality provider, we were buying from the importers, and it's a huge interest for me. I hated the fact that we were buying in substandard produce, paying premium prices for it, opening punnets of strawberries that were already half rotten, and knowing that we were bringing it from Africa and China and far-flung parts of the world. So we had to address it. We had to do something, and this is. While it's unique, I don't know of anyone else that's quite gone to this extent, right? But this is our way of addressing it, and it's working, because our customers in MasterChefs are seriously responding to this, and many of them have come here to Ellan Farm because seeing is believing, and you see the volumes of what we're doing. Right now, this year, we're producing, chatting to Shirley, the gardener, a while ago, approximately 2 tonne a month.
Wow.
Is coming off the farm at the moment.
And if we stroll up just a little bit, all the plants in front of us, they look so healthy and green and vibrant. But can you name some of the things that I'm looking at? I think I can spot some potatoes over there, but what else do you have here?
Yeah, we have 3 varieties of potatoes. We didn't grow potatoes last year. This year we said we're growing 3 types to see what suits our needs better. So we have roosters, we have Mars pipers, and we have Sarperomyra.
Oh yeah, I've heard of them. Yeah.
They're a blight-resistant variety. So we're harvesting them in small amounts at the moment. We're doing various things with them in our central production facility in Ballysimon, and we're using it as a template for next year to see which one will grow in the most volume. I
guess which one suits your needs in terms of a flowery spud, a spud suitable for mashing, all that kind of stuff.
Exactly, and you know what can be chipped and deep fried, and what can be whatever way you want. We use the most. So we have a test kitchen in Limerick, so that's perfect for this type of thing. We also have a huge variety of beetroot. We have 3 types. Boro, which is the purple one. We have the winter sun, which is the orange one, and the stripy pink one, which is Coragia, I think it's pronounced.
I mean, I've tried some of the stuff though, because we had the Biodistrict conference, and Michelle, your chef, did the catering for it, and it was delicious, like seriously scrumptious. People were going up for seconds and thirds.
Yeah. See, people are recognising the difference now in our outlets. They genuinely, and there's a whole process to this, and you wouldn't want to be weak-minded. All right, my own team would have shut me down 2 years ago, because they're used to buying produce all pre-prepared in packaging, you know, out of vacuum packed bags. And to get them to take the lettuce from the ground, or to take the potatoes unwashed, or to take the beets and peel them, it's a real challenge. And that's why last year we said, look, we're going to have to help them out here, because there is a huge shortage of skilled labour in the workforce. So all the time we're looking at how we can make it easier for them to work with us and do it better. So we've built 6,000 square foot food processing plant here on the farm. It'll be the first of its kind, I think, when it goes live. So the idea is, at the moment, we're taking the produce back to Ballysimon and prepping it there and sending it out prepped. We'll be doing that next year, all at the farm here. So that'll be a complete game changer.
Amazing. We might actually stroll back to the processing facility you're building, well, you have built nearly, and chat a bit more about that side of things, because I think it'd be good to maybe touch upon some elements of the next steps. Thank you. Wow.
Here we go.
You're definitely, I love that how you said earlier you're growing into the farm in terms of growing into the 20 acres. I mean, this is huge what you've built here. It's going to be phenomenal when it's ready, isn't it?
Yeah, it will. It's you can hear the echo now. It's a 2-story building. As you can see, it's already all plumbed, and all the services are put in underneath the floor. The mezzanine level is in. The idea here is that the ground floor will be purely processing, and employees will come in that side door there for HACCP purposes. They'll derobe, they'll wash down, and they'll come into the processing plant. And so that's inwards. There's a cold room going there in the corner, and this will be goods outwards, out this way. So it'll just be a seamless process when the whole thing is up and running. On the first floor, then we'll have staff facilities. We'll have meeting rooms proper meeting rooms for the staff to come, and for our guys to train. The idea is that we will bring our team nationally to here at least once a quarter, do team training days, do forums for menu development and recipe development, and just general discussions around the direction that we're going, and how can we as an organisation make it better and ultimately deliver a better product to the customer.
And it's interesting as well, because you're talking on quite like a big scale, and it sounds really exciting, but sometimes is the minutiae difficult. Then you talk about staff, and I think the horticulture industry in particular finds it hard to get staff. Has that been a bit of a struggle?
as I said at the start, we're very fortunate with our two organic specialists, Shirley and Anthony. We actually have we have a lady from Abbeyfield that comes over a couple of days a week. We've actually had a waitress that was that was working as a waitress in the company, and when she heard that there was an opportunity to go out to the farm, she took it, especially during the dry spell there. So she was doing all the watering and loved it, and would have stayed here. So, look, it's a different way of life. I personally love coming out here because it de-stresses you and deflates you, you know, because you have all these issues going on in your daily life, and you come out here and it's just zen, you know. It's calm and it's relaxing, and that's part of what this facility is, you know. It's a de-stressor, and apart from ultimately it's a game changer for how we operate as a company. I think a lot of people, there's no greenwashing going on here. You know, this is real. And as I said, the variety of produce that we're producing here, as you can see on the floor of the shed, it's lined with thousands of bulbs of garlic at the moment, drying out. But nobody gets to see this in the real world. Like, we have chefs that never processed anything because they have grown up through a system where everything is done for them.
So sad in a way, isn't it, that they're losing that connection with food and real food?
No, it is, and they don't. Like, when I was chefing, you know, we were butchering whole animals. We were filleting whole fish. We were doing everything from scratch. We had pheasants coming into the kitchen with the feathers still on, you know, and so we learned how to do everything. To the present day, I could walk into a butcher's, and I haven't been chefing for over 20 years, but I could walk into a butcher's and break down a carcass tomorrow because it's ingrained in you. But we have chefs that just wouldn't know where to start, and that is very sad, and that's a big part of why we're doing this. It's a massive part of the education of the process, and what I would love to do, I have two small children, and to see them interact with the farm and go and pull carrots out of the ground and come running to daddy with, like, do you see what's growing over here? Like, you know, it's just, they think it just, at the moment they're very young, but they just think it just appeared out of the ground. But their perception of food is entirely different.
It'll be so much more rich as well. Like, to them it won't be that the carrots came from the shop, it'll be that they come from the ground, and that's where they're grown, and they can get them from the ground.
They come from daddy's farm at the moment, exactly. You know. Every restaurant we pass is daddy's, but like, it's wonderful. And do you know what? 20 years ago, I wouldn't have been able for this. You know, I wouldn't have had the headspace for it, or the thought process, or probably the ability to do it. But now that we have, I want to pass it on to the next generation. We'd love to see school tours coming through here, so that we can teach kids the idea. You know, we can show them how to grow out there. We can even, you know, physically teach them how to grow, and we can bring them in here and we can show them how the food is processed, and we can even show them how to do simple dishes as they come along. And I've talked to a few national schools about this, and they'd really love to see it happen, you know.
I want to go back to something you touched upon earlier at the beginning, when you were saying that, you know, the main impetus for this was that you've had real difficulty in getting produce yourself. Do you think that there's a disconnect there between organic farmers and that route to market?
Massive disconnect. Look, it's the reason I started this in the first place, because I couldn't get any reliable source of a continuity of supply. Like, here we're succession planting all the time. Shirley is down in the propagation tunnel there at the moment, planting seeds for the next run of brass.
It's planting to order as well for you personally.
Yeah, for me personally, right? So we're not selling to the general public. We sit at the start of the year and we look at our schedule of events and we look at the schedule of business, and obviously we have a history of what we have bought before we started all of this. So we set out to displace as much of that as we possibly could. We don't always get it right, you know, like we have surplus of certain products at certain times, you know, but that's just a learning, that will level off. But in general terms, we've always struggled to get a supply of organic produce. So we started this, but more recently we engaged with Joe Kelleher and others for this idea or concept of a biodistrict. And a biodistrict is essentially a simplified route to market for people within a region, and it's specifically organic. So I talked to Joe about it, and Joe had been looking at this previously and with a different hat on, and we just minds aligned, and we brought a few others into the group from University of Galway, University of Limerick, and Maher from the Urban Co-op, Una Widgerly from Larkin's Hill, and other like-minded people that get it. And we have recently started to fine-tune that, and we have somebody on the payroll now that can, whose job it is to establish who the growers are, what they're growing, what volumes they're growing at, and on the other side, who's the customer. And it's a chicken and egg, you see, because like I know several people like me in the hotel industry, for example, in the restaurant industry, that would buy the produce if they knew they had a consistent supply of it, and they didn't have to go out looking for it.
Yeah. Because the people are too busy. It's not that they don't want the product, it's that they're trying to maybe run a hotel or run a hotel kitchen, and there's a lot going on for them.
Yeah. Like it will, if this bio concept works, it will make product more affordable as well, because part of the problem, I get it from both sides, like part of the problem for the grower is that they're having to charge a premium price because they are bringing the product to the market and they're selling it at crossroads and they're selling it wherever they can, and there's a cost associated with that. But if the produce could be collected, for example, at the farm 2 days a week, it's so wonderful that it'll always last for substantially longer than what you'd buy conventionally. So if they knew that they could just grow X amount of product and that they had a guaranteed route to market and they had a guaranteed sale for it, the price would come down.
And I guess in a way it's important, not just, I guess, the pricing element is one thing, but in terms of there are so many more organic farmers who have joined the scheme, or farmers who've joined the scheme and converting to organic. I mean, the majority of those are probably beef and sheep farmers, but at the same time, organic vegetables is a huge industry that could potentially grow. And at the minute, I think Ireland's importing about 70% of its vegetables. It seems ridiculous. And if there could be, small growers who could hook up or line and create kind of a system or a flow, then potentially there could be it could meet the demand that's there for it, which would be phenomenal.
Of course it is, yeah. And like, there are farmers that if they knew, you're right, there's a glut of beef and sheep, particularly sheep, and there's very little horticultural growers. So, but there's a reason for that. People don't see a business in it. So it's a vicious circle, and until we can start presenting a unified and coherent way of doing business, then nobody's going to be rushing into this.
I'm thinking of maybe the small to medium scale veg grower who's listening to this and is getting excited about the idea, but I'm also thinking of them in terms of like a lot of farmers who are trying to become businesses, that business skills doesn't actually come very naturally to them. I know we could probably have a separate second podcast about business skills, but I'm wondering, do you have any kind of business tips that you might pass on to anyone who's in business and maybe kind of struggling? What should they be looking at? Should they be looking at their profit ratio? Should they be looking at their bottom line, their costs? What's the most important thing, do you think, for any kind of business?
I'd say to anybody, like, if you can get to a break-even point in a reasonable, in a medium time scale. Obviously, there's a cost of setting up any business, and that's true also for horticulture. We have to buy a substantial amount of machinery. Now, we've gone an extra step and we've built this wonderful facility we're standing in here. But but there are grants available, and the IOA are very helpful in that regard. And they're very much encouraging people to do this right now. But I would say to people, and actually when we're fully up and running here, the likelihood is that we won't be able to grow the output that we'll be processing. So we are also a market for somebody. Like if you have, X amount of ton of carrots, like we'll be able to juice them, bottle them, and most likely have a market for it within MasterChefs. So it's, I think people need to start seriously looking at this. There is light at the end of the tunnel. Things are changing. There is a movement like that will, and certainly the Midwest is very encouraging. By the Midwest, we've taken in Tipperary, Limerick, Clare and Galway into the bio-district, and but this can be replicated in any jurisdiction. We just selected this one because we're here, and I am, as MasterChefs, I am a market for organic producers, for beef as well, and lamb. But I would say that horticulture is hopefully turning and on the way up. It's hard to believe, like, that when I say it to you, like, that we found it much easier 25 years ago to get horticulture. That's shocking. And but I do see a change, and there's really good people involved in this now. And I think that together, the more people that keep pushing in the one direction. Bio-district is much more than just organic producers. It's a whole movement. It's a whole way of life. It involves tourism. It involves sustainability at every level. So I think that if we can get this pilot project to where we envisage it, I think it can easily be replicated around the country, and that would be a serious game changer for all producers and growers.
Pat O'Sullivan, thank you very much, and thank you for taking part in the podcast. For anyone listening who wants to find out more about MasterChefs, there's a website they can go to, isn't there, Pat? And I know you're on Instagram and stuff as well.
Yeah, we're on all the social channels. Masterchefs.ie is our website. And we're available everywhere.
There might be a few carrot suppliers out there who are eager to get in touch. We'll have to see. For anyone else listening, you have, of course, been tuning in to Organic Matters, the podcast brought to you by the Irish Organic Association. And for more on organics, you can go to www.irishorganicassociation.ie. But from me, Hannah Quinn-Mulligan, thank you very much for tuning in, and we will have another podcast in 2 weeks' time.